Okay, I'm back and I'm here to review Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond. What is this film? It's pretty much a documentary. What it is it's back in '99 or '98, I believe. I think it was '99 when Jim Carrey was shooting the film Man on the Moon, which is the biographical film on Andy Kaufman. He had a film crew follow him and videotape all the behind the scenes stuff of him getting into the role of Andy and getting into the role of Tony Clifton and shit like that. He explains in this documentary that the reason he never released it, or the reason they never allowed him to release it at the time, was because the footage made him look like an asshole and like he was hard to work with, and the studios did not want people to believe that Jim Carrey was hard to work with or an asshole. So they made him, lock the footage up and never release it, never show it until now. The Jim and Andy is a documentary that explores Jim Carrey as they interview him, as he tries his best to explain and to rationalize what his state of mind was at the time of filming Man on the Moon. If you're a fan of Jim Carrey or a fan of Man on the Moon, or you're a fan of Andy Kaufman, mostly if you're just a fan of Jim Carrey, Man on the Moon, you're gonna like this film. You're gonna find it very interesting. Um, or if you're an aspiring actor, you'll like this film because it gives you insight on a actor's mind as they prepare or are playing a role that they literally kind of sunk themselves into. The negative I have for the film is that there are interviews with like the cast, some of the cast of the Man on the Moon film, like Danny DeVito, Paul Giamatti, Courtney Love, Jerry Lawler. There are interviews with them, but they're all interviews from '99 when they made the film. The only present day interviews or discussions that they have in this film are only with Jim Carrey. So I think the film would have been nice if we could have had some present day, um, you know, perspectives or interviews with, say, a present day Danny DeVito or Courtney Love or Paul Giamatti or even Jerry Lawler, to let them, to essentially see what did they think of the film, all these years later now after they made it. And that's kind of disappointing because literally it is just an hour and a half of Jim Carrey just talking about him playing Andy Kaufman. It's interesting because he tells a lot of stories, and a lot of the stories he tells and shit, they have the footage to back up and they show it, and that's a lot of fun. But there are times where he tells a story and there's no footage to back it up, so it's like you're kind of sitting there wondering whether or not this story is true, or is it something that he falsely remembered, or is it something he's just making up. And it's times like that where he tells like a story. He tells a story like when he met like Andy Kaufman's daughter. How Andy Kaufman's daughter never actually met her father, and how she came on set one day and met Jim Carrey, and they talked for like hours, and basically talked to him as if he was Andy, as if he was her father, and shit like that, where he talks about like Andy's real life parents and brother and sister or whatever coming on set and addressing him as Andy, and how they felt as if like, basically this was Andy. He explains stories like that, and there is footage of Andy's actual family being there and meeting Jim Carrey. But there's no like footage that actually backs up that they treated him like he was Andy at all. There's really nothing more to add. There's really nothing more to say. Um, Again, like if you're not a fan of Man on the Moon, and you're not a fan of Jim Carrey, and you're not even a fan of Andy Kaufman, you're not gonna like this documentary. If you are though a fan of Jim Carrey, or you're a fan of the film Man on the Moon, or if you're a fan of Andy Kaufman, you will find this documentary interesting. You will find it a good watch, especially if you are an aspiring actor. This definitely will grab your attention, and you will find it very interesting, and it will provide you a lot of good insight and you know, behind the scenes look and what it's like for an actor to get so far into a role. So that being said, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna give Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Um, Definitely, it's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original film. I would say if you have Netflix, give it a watch. It's pretty damn good. I'm not the biggest fan of documentaries. I do like documentaries, but I don't actively seek them out. Like, I don't go to movie theaters, or I don't like particularly look for documentaries. But this is a decent one. Like I said, the only downside of it is I wish they had more interviews with more of the cast and some crew from Man on the Moon to talk. You know, I wish they had more interviews with them in the present day so they could talk about like how they felt back then, or you know, now that they look back, what was it like. I wish they had more of that. I wish it wasn't just Jim Carrey, because the film can at times feel like it's a, you know, big fucking ego stroke for Jim Carrey almost. But not a bad film. Again, if you got time and you got Netflix, I'd say give it a watch. To recap, I give Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond a 7 out of 10. So, with that, I'm going to say please thumbs up the video, please subscribe to our channel, and please leave a comment and let me know what you guys think. I have one more review to film, and I will be back with The Disaster Artist, which is a film I was really looking forward to this year, and I can't wait to share my thoughts. So, I'll be back with that.